See you in court. It was a common refrain during the past several legislative sessions. Anytime a controversial bill was passed and signed into law, whether it be about abortion, ballot initiatives, or pretty much anything having to do with transgender rights, there was a promise by those opposed to take down the new law with a lawsuit. It was the same with Idaho's bathroom bill, Senate Bill 1100, the one which required students at Idaho's public schools to use the bathroom or locker room that matches their assigned gender at birth, rather than the gender which they align with now. We knew there was bound to be litigation. Well, 10 days after the law went into effect, we now have a lawsuit against it because we now have someone who might be harmed by it. Here's Joe Paris.
When the calendar shifted to July, Idaho laws updated to reflect newly passed legislation by the Idaho legislature. That includes laws that change how bathrooms are used in Idaho public schools. Senate Bill 1100, known as the bathroom bill, says all Idaho public schools are now required to have bathrooms separated based on the sex a person was assigned at birth, or they can face possible fines. And that law is now being challenged in federal court. A coalition of legal advocates has filed a suit on behalf of a 7th grade transgender student in Boise. The suit challenges the legality of the bathroom law on several fronts and seeks a preliminary injunction to get the law at least paused before the fall semester begins. Plaintiff A, listed as Rebecca Rowe, a pseudonym, is a 12-year-old in the Boise School District. The suit details her gender identity transition from male to female, saying, quote, although Rebecca is now thriving as a transgender student, her mental health suffered in the past before she came to understand her gender identity better and received the support that she needed. LGBTQ advocates maintain there are no Idaho cases of issues arising because of a transgender student using their preferred restroom. Rowe's specific bathroom routine as a trans woman is outlined as simple and not creating problems in the lawsuit. The suit identifies Title IX violations, as well as violations under the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. I reached out to the Idaho Attorney General's office for their reaction to the suit. A spokesperson tells me, quote, while we don't comment on pending litigation, our office is always prepared to vigorously defend the constitutionality of statutes duly passed by the legislature. Supporters of the bathroom bill highlight the fact that SB 1100 never uses the phrase transgender inside the law. Students that do not wish to use a restroom that match their biological sex are supposed to be given other accommodations by the school, like using a private restroom in an administrative area. Advocates of the law say that they believe that provision is a middle ground to allow any student to use a restroom in private. However, the lawsuit points out an issue with the solution, saying it could amount to forced outing of transgender students, something very sensitive. They say that these laws will, quote, subject these youth to an increase of risk of harassment and even bodily harm in violation of their basic right to privacy.
So the lawsuit lays out the idea that Senate Bill 1100 is a solution in search of a problem. We did hear from Idaho lawmakers during the legislative session that said that this topic was something that needed to be addressed before there were issues. And Brian, we heard calls mostly from Democrats during the legislative session saying that this bathroom bill is illegal and there's no way it'll stand up. Well, we'll find out now because it's now in the hands of a courtroom.
Now, to be fair, we also heard legislators say that there were litter boxes being used in some school districts, which is not true. But I want to go back to what Rebecca Rowe's claim is, that she has been using this bathroom in a public school as a girl with having no problems whatsoever. But now with this law in effect, well, now there potentially could be problems, right? So nothing has happened so far.
Right, and that's kind of the conversation that was at the legislature this past year, Brian, where you heard from some lawmakers that said, okay, maybe there hasn't been any problems, but, you know, we don't want there to be problems, so we better set up this law right now. So that's kind of where that comes from. But critics of that, you know, train of thought say, why are you passing bills that have nothing to do with reality? You can come up with bills or ideas for anything. So two very different sides. Again, though, it'll now be in the hands of the judicial system.
All right, thank you very much, Joe.